Man, I mean, Dell absolutely smoked it. I was talking to some of the folks at Dell about their earnings, and I kept asking, like, "Are you sure? Like, did I hear this correctly?" I mean, literally records everywhere. I mean, gigantic beat on the bottom, a really big beat on the top. And remember, everybody was expecting something like happened to Cisco, right? Because there's no other company that's been this close that has brought out their earnings yet. I mean, obviously Lenovo, right? And Lenovo, they were negative on growth in the data center, and then smaller number, single digit on client, and overall revenue up 16%, EPS up 36%, infrastructure 16%. Server and networking up 22%. Are you kidding me? I mean, that thing has had a little bit of growth, but and then storage that has had zero growth over the last 4 quarters, up 9%. PCs up 17%, and this was after Lenovo brought out a 7% gain. And it's all, it's funny. China and Russia, nah. not even a super big discussion on the guide. And there, I'm gonna leave the rest for you, big guy.
Well, there is a ton there, but again, it's the anomaly to me is so weird because if you sit down, you tune in to Bloomberg, CNBC, you listen to the pundits come on the air, and you're like, sometimes that's us, by the way, but
Yeah.
the ones that aren't necessarily tech, they're spreadsheet readers, and they're looking at macro data, and they're looking at companies, and they're pulling back growth, and this is where I guess there's this divergence or decoupling between technology and its impact in markets and the actual ability to perform.
Yeah.
Dell has been, by the way, an absolute juggernaut throughout the pandemic in terms of their ability to manage supply chain. They've reached $100 billion. And by the way, all the supply chain, again, it comes back to demand. It comes back to the fact that demand was heightened and all these companies are growing. I mean, they're growing. So it wasn't like we ever really saw demand stifled in such a supply in such a way that we didn't grow. These companies all grew, Pat. Here was what I really liked. I liked seeing growth in the infrastructure business. This was the part that I really liked because over the past couple of quarters, that's been slow. The PC business sort of carried the torch for a number of quarters. And so the overall number was good. The top number was good. The client number was good. But the ISG number was like, oh, what's going on over there? And, I think in the beginning of COVID, it was like, well, people aren't doing on-prem. They were doing cloud. And so part of Dell's business, things like storage slowed down. I like some of the partnerships, though, like what we're seeing with Project Alpine, the integrations to multi-cloud, being able to connect to Snowflake. I think that's going to help the storage business continue to gain. There's competition in that space, but Dell's always been able to stay on top there. So that was good. The server growth was good. Revenue growth. And by the way, just flipping back, now is when the PC business is supposed to be capitulating. And even I've been the one saying, like, cycles are going to slow. Companies are going to slow down their purchasing on PCs. Individuals and consumers aren't going to be buying. There's no stimulus. And by the way, these are all obvious economic things that are happening. But again, this is where the cream rises when an individual company is performing extremely well, marketing well, selling well, building well. And Pat, one last thing I'll just say on this: the backlog didn't depreciate very much either. So the backlog is still significant, and actually, I believe it's as large or not, if not larger, than it was that last. It's as large as it was last quarter, which I think a lot of people are wondering if big numbers got hit because people are draining the backlog. And in this case, Dell's backlog is still pretty big. So you hit a lot, I hit a lot. Congratulations to Dell. I'm just glad to see companies, despite the fact that there is a looming recession, there is pullbacks in the market, good companies continue to perform well. This is a lesson in economics, and this is an MBA in strategy. Run your business well, and the macro environment will impact you less than everybody else.